Hey, everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving into a story that'll take you on an emotional roller coaster through the skies. This is the tale of Sofia Alvarez, a 17-year-old Latina from Dallas, whose dream trip to New York turns into a nightmare of prejudice and injustice. But don't worry, this story's got heart, drama, and a twist that'll leave you speechless. Picture this, a girl ready to chase her dreams, only to be judged, accused, and humiliated in front of a plane full of strangers. How does one phone call flip the script and spark a movement? Let's find out in episode 1 of Wings of Justice, a flight's turning point. Grab your boarding pass, and let's take off. Sofia Alvarez woke up to the soft hum of her alarm at 4:30 a.m. The Dallas skyline still cloaked in pre-dawn shadows. She stretched, her heart buzzing with excitement. Today was the day she'd fly to New York City for a prestigious summer art camp, a chance to showcase her paintings and maybe, just maybe, catch the eye of a gallery scout. At 17, Sofia was a dreamer with a paintbrush, her canvases bursting with vibrant colors that told stories of her Mexican-American heritage. Her bedroom walls were a gallery of her work, a mural of her abuela's garden, a portrait of her little brother laughing, and a bold abstract piece inspired by the Tex-Mex rhythms of her neighborhood. Sofia's family wasn't rich, but they were scrappy. Her dad, Miguel Alvarez, had started a catering business out of their garage when Sofia was a kid. Tacos, tamales, and his famous mole sauce turned their small operation into a local legend. Over the years, Miguel's hustle paid off, and he'd recently become a minority partner in Horizon Airways, a regional airline known for affordable flights and a warm, community vibe. To celebrate Sofia's acceptance into the art camp, Miguel surprised her with a first-class ticket to New York. "You're going to soar, Mija," he'd said, his eyes shining with pride. "Show the world what you've got." Now, standing in front of her mirror, Sofia tugged on her favorite outfit, faded jeans, a white t-shirt with a small cactus embroidered on the chest, and a worn denim jacket. Her dark curls were pulled into a loose ponytail, and she wore no makeup, just a touch of lip gloss. She wasn't one for flash. Her dad always said, "Let your heart do the talking, not your clothes." Sofia lived by that, carrying herself with quiet confidence. She grabbed her backpack, stuffed with her sketchbook, a few snacks, and her boarding pass, and tiptoed downstairs. Her mom, Elena, was already up, brewing coffee and packing a Tupperware of homemade empanadas for the trip. "You nervous?" "Sophie," Elena asked, handing her a warm mug. "A little," Sofia admitted, sipping the coffee, but mostly excited. "New York, Mom, can you believe it?" Elena smiled, brushing a curl from Sofia's face. "I believe in you. Just be yourself, okay? And call us when you land." Sofia hugged her mom tightly, then hopped into the family's old SUV. Miguel drove her to Dallas, Fort Worth International Airport, the early morning traffic light but buzzing with travelers. At the curb, he pulled her into a bear hug. "You're my star, Sofia. Don't let anyone dim your light." "I won't, Dad," she promised, her voice muffled against his shoulder. With a final wave, she slung her backpack over her shoulder and stepped into the terminal. The airport was a whirlwind of noise and motion, rolling suitcases, chattering families, and the faint smell of pretzels from a nearby kiosk. Sofia navigated the check-in counter with ease, her boarding pass and ID ready. The agent, a middle-aged woman with a tight bun, glanced at her ticket and did a double-take. "First class, huh?" she said, her tone skeptical as she eyed Sofia's casual outfit. "Yup," Sofia replied, offering a polite smile. "Seat to be." The agent's lips pursed, but she scanned the pass and handed it back without a word. Sofia shrugged it off. She was used to occasional side-eyes, being a young Latina in spaces where people expected wealth. To look a certain way sometimes came with that. Her dad had taught her to keep her head high and not let small slights get to her. "Focus on your goals, Mija," he'd say. And her goal today was New York. Security was a breeze, and Sofia made it to the gate with time to spare. She sat near a window, sketching in her notebook a quick drawing of the planes outside, their wings gleaming in the morning sun. The gate area filled with business travelers in crisp suits, a few families, and a couple of college students with oversized headphones. Sofia felt a thrill every time she flew. Airports were like portals, each gate leading to a new story. She wondered about the people around her. Where were they going? What dreams were they chasing? When the boarding announcement for Horizon Airways Flight 214 to New York's LaGuardia Airport crackled over the speaker, Sofia joined the first-class line. The gate agent, a tall man with a name tag reading Greg, scanned her boarding pass and paused, his eyes narrowing. "You're in first class?" he asked, as if she'd handed him a fake ID. "Yes, sir," Sofia said, keeping her voice steady. "Seat to be." Greg studied her for a moment, his gaze lingering on her backpack and sneakers. "All right," he muttered, handing back her pass. "Go ahead." His tone was clipped, no warmth, no welcome aboard. Sofia's stomach twisted, but she brushed it off again. Maybe he's just having a bad day, she thought, heading down the jet bridge. The plane's cabin smelled of fresh coffee and leather. A flight attendant named Karen, with neatly pinned blonde hair and a forced smile, greeted Sofia at the door. "Good morning," Karen said, her eyes flicking over Sofia's outfit. "Can I help you find your seat?" "I'm in to be," Sofia replied, holding up her boarding pass. Karen's smile faltered, just for a second. "Right this way," she said, stepping aside. Sofia felt the weight of Karen's stare as she walked to her seat, a plush leather recliner by the window. She stowed her backpack in the overhead bin and settled in, the seat enveloping her like a hug. First class was a rare treat, and she couldn't help but grin. She snapped a quick selfie for her best friend, Leela, back in Dallas, living the high life. "See you in NYC." The first-class cabin filled slowly. A man in a tailored suit took seat 1A, typing furiously on his laptop. A woman with a designer handbag and oversized sunglasses sat in 3C, flipping through a fashion magazine. Sofia pulled out her sketchbook, doodling a caricature of the sunglass lady, her pencil scratching softly. Karen came by with a tray of orange juice and sparkling water. "Something to drink, miss?" she asked, her tone polite but distant. "Orange juice, please," Sofia said, smiling. Karen handed her a glass, placed a napkin on the armrest, and moved on without another word. Sofia sipped her drink, trying to shake the uneasy feeling creeping up her spine. She'd flown before, but something about this flight felt off. The way Greg had looked at her, Karen's cold demeanor, it was like she was under a microscope. The plane's doors closed, and the safety video played on the seatback screens. Sofia buckled her seatbelt, her excitement for New York battling the nagging sense of being watched. As the plane taxied to the runway, she leaned back, letting the rumble of the engines soothe her. The takeoff was smooth, the ground falling away as the plane climbed into a sea of clouds. Sofia closed her eyes, imagining her art camp, late-night painting sessions, new friends, maybe even a chance to visit the Met. About 20 minutes into the flight, the seatbelt sign dinged off. Sofia decided to stretch her legs and visit the lavatory. She walked to the front of the cabin, passing Karen, who was whispering to another flight attendant, a younger guy named Mark. Their eyes flicked toward Sofia, and she caught the tail end of Karen's sentence. "Doesn't look like she belongs here." Sofia's cheeks burned, but she kept walking, pretending not to hear. In the lavatory, she splashed water on her face, staring at her reflection. "You belong here," she whispered to herself. "Dad got you this ticket. You earned this." Back in her seat, Sofia put on her headphones and scrolled through the in-flight entertainment, settling on a documentary about street art. She was just getting into it when Karen appeared again, her expression no longer neutral, but sharp, almost accusatory. "Miss Alvarez," she said, her voice cutting through the hum of the cabin. "We need to speak with you." Sofia pulled off her headphones, her pulse quickening. "Is something wrong?" she asked, keeping her tone calm. Karen's lips pressed into a thin line. "There's been a report of a missing item in the cabin. A passenger's watch, a very expensive one, has disappeared. We need to check your bag." Sofia's jaw dropped. "What? I didn't take anything. I've been in my seat the whole time." Karen crossed her arms. "It's just procedure. If you cooperate, this'll be quick." Sofia's heart pounded, her mind racing. The cabin was quiet now, every passenger's eyes on her. The man in 1A looked up from his laptop, frowning. The woman in 3C lowered her magazine, her sunglasses perched on her head. Sofia felt like she was on trial, her every move scrutinized. "I didn't do anything," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You can check my bag, but you won't find anything." Karen nodded to Mark, who stepped forward, his face unreadable. "Please hand over your backpack." "Miss," he said. Sofia reached under her seat, her hands shaking as she pulled out her bag. She unzipped it, revealing her sketchbook, a granola bar, and a water bottle. "See?" "Nothing," she said, holding it open. Karen leaned in, rifling through the contents with a gloved hand. She pulled out Sofia's sketchbook, flipping through it as if a watch might be hidden between the pages. Sofia's cheeks flushed with humiliation. "That's my art," she said quietly. "It's personal." Karen ignored her, handing the bag to Mark. "Check the pockets," she instructed. The cabin was deathly silent, the tension thick enough to choke on. Sofia's eyes stung, but she refused to cry. She thought of her dad, his words echoing in her mind. "Don't let anyone dim your light." She straightened her shoulders, forcing her voice to stay steady. "This isn't right. You're singling me out for no reason." Karen's eyes narrowed. "We're just doing our job, miss. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about." "Then why does it feel like I'm already guilty?" Sofia shot back, her voice louder now. A few passengers gasped, and the man in 1A stood up, his laptop forgotten. "Excuse me," he said, his tone sharp. "Is this really necessary? She's a kid, and you're treating her like a criminal." Karen turned to him, her smile tight. "Sir, please stay seated. This is a security matter." Sofia's heart raced, gratitude mixing with her fear. Someone was standing up for her. But it wasn't enough. Mark finished searching her bag and shook his head. "Nothing here," he muttered. Karen's expression didn't soften. "Fine, but we're keeping an eye on you, Miss Alvarez. Don't leave." "Your seat again." Sofia sank back into her chair, her hands trembling. The cabin buzzed with whispers, some sympathetic, others judgmental. She wanted to scream, to tell them all she wasn't a thief, that her dad was a partner at Horizon Airways, that this ticket was a gift. But her throat felt tight, her words trapped. She pulled her jacket tighter around her, wishing she could disappear. Then, from across the aisle, the woman in 3C leaned over, her voice low. "That was out of line, sweetheart. You okay?" Sofia nodded, barely able to speak. "Thank you," she whispered. The woman gave her a small smile. "Hang in there. This isn't over." Sofia glanced at Karen, who was now at the front of the cabin, talking to Mark. Their eyes kept darting back to her, and Sofia's stomach churned. She reached for her phone, desperate to text her dad, but it was on airplane mode. She needed to tell him what was happening, to hear his voice, to know she wasn't alone. Before she could do anything, Karen marched back, her face a mask of determination. "Miss Alvarez," she said, her voice cold as ice, "we're not done. Open your bag again. Now, or I'm calling security." Sofia froze, her breath catching. The cabin erupted in murmurs, phones coming out to record. This was spiraling out of control, and she was trapped in the middle of it. What's next? Will Sofia fight back, or will this nightmare get worse? Hit the like button, share this story, and subscribe to episode 2 of Ascendancy. Let's continue to shed light on truth and justice together. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were Sofia? See you in the next episode. The air in the first-class cabin of Horizon Airways Flight 214 was thick with tension. Like the moment before a storm breaks, Sofia Alvarez sat frozen in seat to be, her backpack open on her lap, her sketchbook and granola bar exposed for all to see. Flight attendant Karen loomed over her, arms crossed, her blue eyes sharp with suspicion. "Open your bag again, Miss Alvarez," Karen repeated, her voice slicing through the murmurs of the passengers. "Now, or I'm calling security." Sofia's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. She clutched the straps of her backpack, her knuckles whitening. "You already checked it," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "There's nothing there. I didn't take anyone's watch." Her dark curls fell across her face, and she pushed them back, refusing to look away from Karen's glare. The cabin was a sea of eyes, some curious, some judgmental, a few sympathetic. The man in 1A, who'd spoken up earlier, was still standing, his laptop forgotten on his tray table. The woman in 3C, with her designer handbag and sunglasses, leaned forward, her brow furrowed. Karen's lips curled into a tight smile. "If you're innocent, you won't mind us double-checking. We can't take risks with passenger safety." Her tone dripped with condescension, as if Sofia were a child caught in a lie. Sofia's cheeks burned with a mix of anger and humiliation. She wanted to scream that this wasn't about safety, it was about her. Her brown skin, her faded jeans, her youth. She'd felt this before, the weight of being judged for how she looked, but never like this, not in front of a plane full of strangers. "This isn't fair," she said, her voice rising. "You're singling me out. Why me? Why not check everyone's bags?" A murmur rippled through the cabin, and a few passengers nodded. The man in 1A cleared his throat. "She's got a point," he said, his voice calm but authoritative. "If you're looking for a missing item, why target one passenger? That's not protocol, it's profiling." Karen shot him a withering look. "Sir, please sit down. This is an airline matter, and we're handling it." "Are you?" the woman in 3C interjected, her voice sharp. She stood now, her sunglasses dangling from her hand. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're harassing a young girl with no evidence. That's not handling anything, that's abuse of power." Sofia's chest tightened, gratitude flooding her. These strangers were standing up for her, giving her a flicker of hope. But Karen wasn't backing down. She turned to Mark, the younger flight attendant hovering nearby, his face a mask of discomfort. "Mark, get the captain on the radio. We need to report a non-compliant passenger." "Non-compliant?" Sofia's voice cracked. "I let you search my bag. I'm not the one causing a scene, you are." Her hands shook as she zipped her backpack shut, clutching it to her chest like a shield. She thought of her dad, Miguel, and how proud he'd been when he gave her this ticket. He was a partner at Horizon Airways, for God's sake. If she could just call him, this would all be over. "Please," she said, softening her tone. "Let me call my dad. He can clear this up. He booked this flight." Karen raised an eyebrow, her skepticism palpable. "Your dad, huh? And who's he supposed to be?" "The CEO." A few passengers chuckled, and Sofia's face flushed hotter. She wanted to blurt out that her dad was Miguel Alvarez, a name that carried weight in this airline. But something held her back. Her dad had always taught her to handle things with grace, to prove herself through actions, not name-dropping. Besides, would they even believe her? Mark hesitated, glancing between Karen and Sofia. "Maybe we should let her make a call," he said quietly. "It could resolve this faster." Karen whipped around, her eyes flashing. "We don't negotiate with passengers, Mark. If she's got nothing to hide, she'll let us search her bag again. End of story." She reached for Sofia's backpack, but Sofia yanked it away, her instincts kicking in. "Don't touch my stuff," Sofia said, her voice low but fierce. The cabin erupted in gasps, and Karen's face reddened. "That's it," Karen snapped. "You're refusing to cooperate. Mark, call security for when we land. She's not staying in first class." She grabbed Sofia's arm, her grip tight enough to sting. Sofia flinched, pulling back, but Karen held firm, tugging her toward the aisle. "Stop." The woman in 3C was on her feet now, her voice booming. "You're assaulting a minor. Let her go, or I'm filing a complaint the second we land." She pulled out her phone, the camera flashing as she started recording. Other passengers followed suit, their phones raised, capturing every moment. The man in 1A stepped into the aisle, blocking Karen's path. "Ma'am," he said, his tone icy, "you're escalating this unnecessarily. I'm a lawyer, and I can assure you, you're violating this girl's rights. Let her go, now." Karen froze, her grip loosening on Sofia's arm. Sofia stumbled back into her seat, rubbing her arm where Karen's fingers had dug in. Her eyes stung with tears, but she blinked them away, refusing to let Karen see her cry. The cabin was chaos now, passengers shouting, some demanding answers, others calling for the captain. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear, his hands fidgeting with his name tag. Sofia's mind raced. She needed to get to her phone, to call her dad, but it was buried in her backpack, and Karen was still hovering like a hawk. She glanced at the woman in 3C, who gave her a nod, her phone still recording. "You're okay, sweetheart," the woman said softly. "We've got your back." Sofia managed a shaky thank you, her voice barely audible. She reached for her backpack, pulling out her phone. It was still on airplane mode, but she could try texting her dad over the in-flight Wi-Fi. She fumbled with the settings, her fingers trembling. When Karen's voice cut through again, "Put that phone away," Karen ordered. "No devices until we resolve this." Sofia's jaw tightened. "I'm not breaking any rules," she said, her voice steadier now. "I'm texting my dad. You can't stop me from doing that." She opened her messages, typing a quick note to Miguel. "Dad, I'm on the flight. They're accusing me of stealing. They grabbed me. Please help." Before she could hit send, Karen lunged forward, snatching the phone from Sofia's hand. "I said no devices," she barked, holding the phone out of reach. The cabin exploded. "That's theft," the lawyer in 1A shouted, his phone now recording too. "You can't take her property." The woman in 3C stepped closer, her camera trained on Karen. "Give it back, or I'm posting this online right now," she warned. Karen's face paled, but she clutched the phone tighter. "This is a security issue," she said, her voice wavering. She could be contacting an accomplice. "An accomplice?" Sofia's voice rose, incredulous. "I'm a high school student. I'm going to an art camp. You're making this up." Her hands balled into fists, her fear giving way to fury. She thought of her dad's stories, how he'd faced prejudice starting his business, how he'd fought to be taken seriously as a Latina entrepreneur. She wasn't going to let Karen win. Mark stepped forward, his voice low. "Karen, maybe we should cool it. The captain's gonna hear about this." He glanced at Sofia, his eyes apologetic. "Just give her the phone back." Karen hesitated, her jaw clenched. Finally, she thrust the phone at Sofia, who grabbed it, her hands shaking. "Don't try anything," Karen muttered, retreating to the galley with Mark trailing behind. Sofia sank into her seat, her breath ragged. The lawyer in 1A leaned over. "You okay, kid?" he asked, his voice gentle. "I'm Robert. I meant what I said. I'm a lawyer. If you need help, I'm here." "Thank you," Sofia whispered, clutching her phone. She opened her messages again, her fingers hovering over the send button. The Wi-Fi was spotty, but she hit send, praying the text would go through. She needed her dad now more than ever. The woman in 3C, whose name tag on her handbag read Vanessa, sat back down, still holding her phone. "I've got the whole thing recorded," she said quietly. "This is going viral when we land. They can't treat you like this." Sofia nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to believe Vanessa, but the fear gnawing at her stomach wouldn't let go. What if her dad didn't get the message? What if Karen followed through and had her dragged off the plane? She rubbed her arm, feeling the bruise forming where Karen had grabbed her. This wasn't just about a watch anymore, it was about her dignity, her right to be here. The seatbelt sign dinged on as the plane hit a patch of turbulence, the captain's voice crackling over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. We're experiencing some rough air." Karen and Mark disappeared into the galley, but Sofia could feel their eyes on her through the curtain. The passengers settled down, but the tension lingered, a low hum of outrage and curiosity. Robert, the lawyer, leaned over again. "Don't let them intimidate you," he said. "You've got rights, and we're witnesses." Sofia managed a small smile. "I just want to get to New York," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You will," Vanessa chimed in, her voice fierce. "And they're gonna regret messing with you." Sofia clung to their words, but her heart still raced. She stared at her phone, willing a response from her dad. The screen stayed blank, the Wi-Fi icon flickering. She closed her eyes, picturing her dad's face, his warm smile, his unwavering belief in her. "Please, Dad," she thought. "I need you." The turbulence eased, but the seatbelt sign stayed on. Karen emerged from the galley, her expression unreadable. She marched straight to Sofia's seat, Mark trailing behind, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Miss Alvarez," Karen said, her voice cold as steel, "we're moving you to economy. You're causing a disturbance, and we can't have that in first class." Sofia's jaw dropped. "Move me? For what?" I didn't do anything. Her voice shook, but she stood up. Her backpack clutched to her chest. The cabin stirred again, passengers muttering in protest. Robert was on his feet in an instant. "This is outrageous," he said, his voice booming. "You've got no grounds to relocate her. I'm calling your corporate office the second we land." Vanessa stood too, her phone raised. "Smile for the camera," she said, her tone dripping with defiance. "The world's gonna see this." Karen's face twitched, but she didn't back down. She grabbed Sofia's arm again, harder this time, and yanked her into the aisle. "Let's go," she said, her voice low and menacing. Sofia's heart pounded, her vision blurring with tears. "Let me go," she cried, twisting free. The cabin erupted, passengers shouting, phones recording. Mark tried to step in, but Karen pushed past him, her grip tightening on Sofia's arm. And then, from the back of the cabin, a new voice cut through the chaos. A woman, older, with a commanding presence. "Enough," she shouted, striding forward. Her name tag read Mrs. Thompson, and her eyes blazed with righteous anger. "You're manhandling a child. Let her go, or I'm calling every news outlet in New York." Karen froze, her grip loosening. Sofia stumbled back, her breath hitching. Mrs. Thompson stepped between them, her hands raised. "This stops now," she said, her voice steady. "Let her call her family. Do your job properly, or we'll make sure everyone knows what's happening here." The cabin fell silent, all eyes on Karen. Sofia clutched her phone, her heart racing. She could feel the tide turning, but Karen's next words sent a chill down her spine. "Fine," Karen said, her voice venomous. "Make your call. But if you're lying, you're off this plane the second we land." Wow, what a moment. Will Sofia be able to reach her father? Will she be able to prove her innocence before things get worse? Hit the like button, share this episode, and subscribe to episode 3 of Ascendancy. Leave your thoughts in the comments. How would you handle Karen? Let's continue this fight for justice strong. See you in the next episode. The first-class cabin of Horizon Airways Flight 214 was a powder keg, every word and movement threatening to spark an explosion. Sofia Alvarez stood in the aisle, her heart hammering, her denim jacket slipping off one shoulder. Her arm throbbed where Karen, the flight attendant, had grabbed her, leaving a faint bruise. Karen's venomous words echoed in Sofia's ears. "Make your call. But if you're lying, you're off this plane the second we land." The threat hung heavy, but Sofia clung to the flicker of hope ignited by Mrs. Thompson, the older passenger who'd stepped in like a guardian angel. Mrs. Thompson's commanding presence held Karen at bay, her eyes daring the flight attendant to make another move. Sofia clutched her phone, her lifeline to her dad, Miguel Alvarez. The screen glowed with her unsent text. "Dad, I'm on the flight. They're accusing me of stealing. They grabbed me. Please help." The in-flight Wi-Fi was spotty, but she hit send again, praying it would go through. The cabin buzzed with tension, passengers whispering, phones raised, capturing every second. Robert, the lawyer in seat 1A, stood nearby, his calm authority a shield against Karen's aggression. Vanessa, the woman in 3C, kept her camera rolling, her designer handbag forgotten on her seat. Their support gave Sofia strength, but fear still gnawed at her. What if her dad didn't get the message? What if Karen followed through and had her arrested? Mrs. Thompson turned to Sofia, her voice steady but warm. "You're okay, honey. They can't touch you now. Make that call." Her gray hair was pulled into a neat bun, and her eyes held a quiet fire, like someone who'd faced injustice before and knew how to fight it. Sofia nodded, her throat tight. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engines. She glanced at Karen, who stood with her arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. Mark, the younger flight attendant, hovered behind her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. His eyes darted to Sofia, a flicker of guilt in them, but he said nothing. "I can't call with airplane mode on," Sofia said, her voice steadier now. "Can I use the Wi-Fi to text, or is there a crew phone I can use?" She remembered her dad mentioning that some new planes had satellite phones for emergencies. If she could just hear his voice, this nightmare would end. Karen scoffed, her lips curling. The crew phones for emergencies. not for passengers who think they're special. And WI fees for data, not calls. Buy a pass if you want to text, but don't expect us to bend the rules for you. Sofia's jaw clenched. This is an emergency, she said, pointing to her bruised arm. You grabbed me. You accused me of stealing with no proof. I need to talk to my dad. He's a partner at Horizon Airways. He'll tell you this is all a mistake. Karen's eyes narrowed, her skepticism dripping like venom. A partner at Horizon, right? And I'm the Queen of England. A few passengers chuckled, but the laughter died quickly under Mrs. Thompson's glare. Robert stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. Ma'am, you're out of line. If she says her father's a partner, verify it. It's one call to corporate. You're escalating a situation that could have been resolved 10 minutes ago. His phone was still recording, and Karen's face twitched, clearly aware of the growing evidence against her. Vanessa chimed in, her voice sharp. I've got this whole thing on video. The internet's gonna love seeing Horizon Airways manhandle a teenager. Give her the phone, or this goes viral before we land. Karen's face reddened, but she didn't budge. This is a security matter, she said, her voice wavering slightly. We don't let passengers dictate protocol. Then follow protocol, Mrs. Thompson said, her tone like steel. Call your supervisor or corporate. Verify her story. You're not judge and jury here. She turned to Mark, who was shifting uncomfortably. Young man, you know this isn't right. Do something. Mark swallowed hard. Glancing at Karen, maybe we should radio. He mumbled, just to be sure. Karen whipped around, her eyes blazing. Stay out of this, Mark. I'm in charge here. But her confidence was cracking. The weight of the passengers' stares and cameras bearing down on her. Sofia seized the moment. Please, she said, looking at Mark. My dad's name is Miguel Alvarez. He's on the board at Horizon. One call, and this is over. I'm not a thief. I'm just trying to get to New York for an art camp. Her voice trembled, but she held her head high. Her dad's words echoing in her mind. Don't let anyone dim your light. Mark hesitated, then nodded slightly. I'll talk to the captain, he said, slipping into the galley before Karen could stop him. Karen's face contorted with fury, but she didn't follow. Instead, she turned back to Sofia, her voice low and menacing. You better hope your story checks out, she said, because if you're lying, you're in more trouble than you can imagine. Sofia's stomach twisted, but she met Karen's gaze. I'm not lying, she said, her voice steady now. And when my dad hears about this, you'll be the one in trouble. A ripple of murmurs swept through the cabin, some passengers nodding in approval. Vanessa gave Sofia a thumbs up, her camera still rolling. Robert leaned over, his voice low. You're doing great, kid. Stay strong. We're not letting them get away with this. Sofia managed a small nod, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. The Wi-Fi icon flickered, but her text still hadn't sent. She refreshed the screen, her heart sinking. Come on, Dad, she thought. Please see this. The seatbelt sign was still on, the plane jostling through lingering turbulence. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Folks, we're still in some choppy air. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. We'll update you soon. The announcement did little to calm the cabin where the real turbulence was human, not atmospheric. Minutes dragged like hours. Sofia sat back down, her backpack on her lap, her eyes fixed on the galley where Mark had disappeared. Passengers whispered around her, their voices a mix of outrage and curiosity. She's just a kid, someone muttered. They're treating her like a criminal, another said. Sofia wanted to thank them, to tell them how much their support meant, but her throat felt too tight to speak. Mrs. Thompson took the seat next to Sofia, her presence comforting. I've seen this before, she said quietly, her voice tinged with sadness. Back in the 60s, I was a teacher in Alabama. Got turned away from a bus once because of how I looked. I didn't fight back then. Regretted it ever since. But you, Sofia, you're fighting. And we're with you. Sofia's eyes stung, but she managed to smile. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I don't understand why this is happening. Some people see what they want to see, Mrs. Thompson said, patting Sofia's hand. But the truth always comes out. Hold on to that. Sofia nodded, her resolve hardening. She thought of her paintings, the way she poured her heart into every stroke. This flight was supposed to be her chance to shine, to show the world what she could do. She wasn't going to let Karen steal that from her. Mark emerged from the galley, his face pale but determined. He approached Sofia, avoiding Karen's glare. "The captain says we can call corporate to verify your dad's connection," he said, his voice low. "But we need to do it through the cockpit. It's not a passenger phone." Sofia's heart leaped. "Thank you," she said, relief flooding her. "Can I go with you? I need to talk to him." Karen stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Absolutely not. Passengers don't go near the cockpit. That's a security violation." She turned to Mark. "You're not helping, Mark. We'll handle this when we land." Mark stood his ground, surprising everyone. "Karen, the captain's orders were clear. We're calling corporate. If her dad's who she says he is, we need to know now." His voice shook slightly, but he didn't back down. Karen's face twisted, but the weight of the passengers' stares and their cameras kept her in check. "Fine," she snapped, "but I'm going with you. This better not be a stunt." Sofia's pulse raced as she followed Mark and Karen to the front of the cabin, Mrs. Thompson and Robert watching closely. Vanessa kept her phone raised, whispering, "This is gold." The galley curtain swished shut behind them, muffling the cabin's murmurs. The tiny space felt claustrophobic, Karen's presence like a storm cloud. Mark picked up a satellite phone mounted on the wall, punching in a code. "Captain, it's Mark," he said into the receiver. "We're calling corporate to verify a passenger's identity. She says her dad's Miguel Alvarez, a partner at Horizon." He glanced at Sofia, his eyes apologetic. "Yeah, I'll hold." Sofia's breath caught, her hands clasped tightly. This was it. If they reached her dad, everything would change. She pictured his face, his warm brown eyes, the way he'd always made her feel safe. "Please, Dad," she thought. Answer. Karen leaned against the counter, her arms crossed. "This is a waste of time," she muttered. "She's just stalling." Sofia ignored her, focusing on Mark. He listened intently, then nodded. "Okay, they're patching us through to Horizon's executive office," he said, his voice tense. "They've got someone who can confirm." Sofia's heart soared, but Karen's next words sent it crashing. "If this falls through," she said, her voice low and cold, "we're diverting the flight. You'll be escorted off in handcuffs." Sofia's blood ran cold. Divert the flight? Handcuffs? This was spiraling beyond her worst nightmares. She opened her mouth to protest, but before she could speak, the plane lurched violently, throwing her against the counter. The satellite phone clattered to the floor, and Mark grabbed the wall for balance. Karen stumbled. Cursing under her breath, the captain's voice blared over the intercom. "Flight attendants, secure the cabin immediately. We're hitting severe turbulence. All passengers, return to your seats now." Sofia's heart pounded as the plane shook again, the galley curtain flapping. Mark scrambled to pick up the phone, but the line was dead. "We lost the signal," he said, his voice tight. "We can't call until the turbulence clears." Karen's eyes gleamed with triumph. "Back to your seat, Miss Alvarez," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "This isn't over." Sofia stood frozen, the plane shaking, mirroring the storm in her chest. The cabin beyond the curtain was chaos, passengers shouting, phones still recording. Mrs. Thompson's voice rose above the noise, demanding to know what was happening. Sofia's phone buzzed in her hand, a notification flashing, message sent. Her text to her dad had finally gone through. But as Karen grabbed her arm to drag her back to her seat, Sofia's hope flickered. Would her dad see it in time? Or was this storm about to crash her dreams for good? Oh my, what a thriller! Will Sofia's father come to her rescue? Will she be able to withstand Karen's wrath? Hit the like button, share this episode, and subscribe to episode 4 of Ascendancy. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What's Karen's deal, and how will Sofia respond? Let's keep this justice train rolling. See you in the next episode. The first-class cabin of Horizon Airways Flight 114 buzzed with tension, the plane's engines a low hum beneath the storm of human conflict. Sofia Alvarez stood near the galley, her heart pounding, clutching a satellite phone. Her dark curls were disheveled, Her denim jacket crumpled, and a faint bruise marked her arm where Karen, the flight attendant, had grabbed her. Karen blocked her path, her blonde hair pinned tightly, her navy uniform crisp despite her fury. "Not so fast," Karen snapped, her voice cold. "You're not going near the cockpit. We'll handle the call." Sofia's fear turned to fire. "You've been wrong about me this whole time," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "My dad's on that phone, and he'll tell you who I am. You can't stop this." Her words cut through the cabin, drawing gasps from passengers. Mrs. Thompson, an older woman with gray hair, stood nearby, her eyes fierce with support. Robert, the lawyer in 1A, recorded on his phone, his face stern. Vanessa, in 3C, zoomed in, her camera flashing, capturing Karen's flinch. Mark, the younger flight attendant, held the phone, his face pale. "Miss Alvarez," he said, his voice trembling, "it's your dad. He wants to speak to you." Sofia reached for it, but Karen snatched it, her grip like iron. "I'm talking to him first," she said, her tone venomous. "We need to make sure this is legit." Sofia's blood boiled. "That's my dad," she cried, lunging forward. Mrs. Thompson grabbed her arm, holding her back. "Let her speak," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice steel. The cabin erupted. Passengers chanting, "Let her speak." Vanessa's camera streamed live. Comments flooding with outrage. Karen's face twitched, the weight of the crowd's fury bearing down. She held the phone to her ear, her voice fake polite. "Alvarez? This is Karen, flight attendant on flight 214. We're dealing with a passenger issue. Your daughter's been uncooperative." Sofia's jaw dropped. "That's a lie," she shouted, her voice breaking. Robert stepped forward, his voice booming. "Give her the phone, or I'm calling the FAA when we land." Karen's face paled, and she thrust the phone at Sofia. "Fine," she snapped. "Talk." Sofia grabbed it, her hands shaking. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling. "Sofia, Miguel Alvarez's voice came through, thick with emotion. "Are you okay? What's happening?" Tears spilled down Sofia's cheeks as she recounted the accusations, the search, the bruise. "They wouldn't listen, Dad," she choked out. "They hurt me." Miguel's voice hardened. "I'm on a private flight to New York. I've called the board. This crew's done. Stay in your seat, Mija. You're safe now." He paused, his tone fierce. "Put that flight attendant back on." Sofia handed the phone to Karen, whose face drained of color. She listened, her lips tightening, then muttered, "Yes, sir," before handing the phone to Mark. "Take it to the captain," she hissed, retreating to the galley. Sofia sank into her seat, relief crashing over her. Mrs. Thompson sat beside her, patting her hand. "You did it, honey. Your dad's got this." Vanessa grinned, her phone still recording. "This is going viral," she said. #justice for Sofia single quotes as trending. Sofia's stomach flipped. Going viral. She just wanted to get to her camp. The plane steadied. The seatbelt sign still on. The captain's voice crackled. "Folks, we're clear of turbulence. We'll land in New York soon." Passengers cheered, but their eyes stayed on Sofia, some offering smiles. Karen emerged, her face forced calm. "Miss Alvarez, you may stay in first class," she said, her voice hollow. Sofia glared. "You owe me an apology," she said, her voice steady. Karen's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing, retreating again. Robert leaned over. "You've got a case, kid," he said. "Discrimination. Assault. My firm's ready to help." Sofia nodded, overwhelmed. She just wanted her dad's arms around her, not a lawsuit. The plane descended, the cabin lights dimming. Sofia clutched her backpack, her sketchbook inside. She'd face reporters soon, but with her dad coming, she felt stronger. As the wheels touched down, she whispered, "I made it." But what came next? What a moment. Will Sofia face the media storm? How will Miguel turn things around? Hit the like button, share, and subscribe to episode 5 of Ascendancy. Comment below, what would you do if you were Sofia? Let's keep fighting for justice. See you in the next episode. The first-class cabin of Horizon Airways Flight 214 was a battlefield of emotions. The air thick with the aftermath of confrontation. Sofia Alvarez sat in seat to be. her hands trembling. As she clutched the satellite phone, her dad's voice still echoing in her ears. I'm handling this. Mija, stay strong. Tears streaked her cheeks, but relief warmed her chest like a sunrise. Miguel Alvarez, her rock, her hero, was on his way to New York, and he'd just torn into Karen and the crew for their treatment of his daughter. The bruise on Sofia's arm throbbed, a reminder of Karen's grip, but for the first time since boarding. Sofia felt a spark of victory. She wasn't just a scared kid anymore. She was Miguel Alvarez's daughter, and the truth was out. Karen stood at the front of the cabin, her face a mask of barely contained fury. Her blonde hair was slightly askew, her name tag glinting under the cabin lights. She'd handed the phone back to Mark after a heated exchange with Miguel, her voice dripping with false deference. Of course, Mr. Alvarez, we'll ensure your daughter's comfort. But her eyes told a different story: resentment, defiance, and a flicker of fear. The passengers' phones, still recording, had captured every moment, and Karen knew it. Mark, the younger flight attendant, hovered near the galley, his face pale, his hands fidgeting. He'd tried to de-escalate, but his loyalty to Karen had kept him complicit too long. Sofia wiped her tears, her dark curls falling across her face. She tucked them behind her ear, her denim jacket crumpled, but her resolve ironclad. Mrs. Thompson, the older passenger who'd become her fiercest ally, leaned across the aisle, her gray eyes shining with pride. You did it, Sofia, she said, her voice warm. You stood your ground, and your dad's got your back. This isn't over, but you've won this round. Sofia managed a shaky smile. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I couldn't have done it without you. Her voice was soft, but her words carried weight. She glanced at Robert, the lawyer in 1A, who gave her a nod, his phone still in hand, ready to document any misstep. Vanessa, in 3C, was scrolling through her phone, her designer sunglasses perched on her head. Girl, you're a star, Vanessa said, her voice triumphant. This video's got 50,000 views already. #JusticeForSofia is blowing up on X. Sofia's stomach flipped. 50,000, she whispered, her heart racing. Going viral was a double-edged sword: validation, yes, but also exposure she hadn't asked for. She was just a high school artist from Dallas, not a celebrity. All she'd wanted was to get to her art camp in New York, to paint her dreams onto canvas. Now, her face was plastered across the internet, her story dissected by strangers. She rubbed her bruised arm, the ache grounding her in the moment. The plane had steadied, the turbulence fading, but the seatbelt sign remained on. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we've cleared the rough air. We'll keep the seatbelt sign on for now as a precaution. Thank you for your patience. The announcement felt hollow, ignoring the real storm that had rocked the cabin. Passengers murmured, some still filming, others whispering words of support to Sofia. A woman in 4A leaned over, her voice gentle. You're so brave, sweetie. We're all behind you. Sofia nodded, her throat tight. Thank you, she said, her voice barely audible. She checked her phone again, hoping for another message from her dad. The Wi-Fi was still spotty, but a new text had come through. Mija, I'm on a private flight to LaGuardia. I'll be there when you land. Horizon's launching an investigation. You're safe now. Love you. Sofia's eyes welled up again, relief mixing with exhaustion. Her dad was coming. He'd make this right. But Karen wasn't done. She emerged from the galley, her posture rigid, her smile forced. She approached Sofia, her voice dripping with insincere politeness. Miss Alvarez, on behalf of Horizon Airways, I apologize for the misunderstanding. You're welcome to stay in first class for the remainder of the flight. Her words were rehearsed, her eyes cold. It wasn't an apology, it was damage control, and everyone knew it. Sofia's jaw tightened. Misunderstanding, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. You accused me of stealing. You grabbed me. You tried to kick me out of my seat. That's not a misunderstanding, that's wrong. Her words hung in the air, and the cabin erupted in murmurs of agreement. Vanessa's camera zoomed in, capturing Karen's flinch. Robert stood, his voice calm but cutting. That's no apology. You violated this young woman's rights, and we have it all on video. Horizon's going to hear from my firm if you don't rectify this immediately. His tailored suit gave him an air of authority, and Karen's face paled, her mask slipping. Mrs. Thompson chimed in, her voice like steel. You owe her more than words. You need to own this, or the world will make you. Her words were met with applause, and Karen's eyes darted to the galley, as if searching for an escape. Mark stepped forward, his voice shaky. I'm sorry, Miss Alvarez. I should have spoken up sooner. His apology was genuine, his eyes downcast. Sofia nodded, her anger softening slightly. Mark wasn't the problem, Karen was. Karen's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't respond. She turned on her heel, retreating to the galley, her authority crumbling under the weight of the passengers' outrage. Sofia sank back into her seat, exhaustion washing over her. She wanted to believe it was over, but Karen's defiance lingered like a storm cloud. She glanced at her phone, rereading her dad's text. You're safe now, was she? The bruise on her arm said otherwise, and the viral videos meant her story was no longer just hers. Vanessa leaned over, her voice low. You're trending worldwide now. People are calling for Horizon to fire Karen. There's even a petition. She showed Sofia her phone, where X posts with #Justice for Sofia were flooding in. Comments ranged from "This is disgusting" to "Sofia, you're an inspiration." Sofia's heart swelled, but the attention felt overwhelming. She wasn't a hero, she was just a girl trying to get to New York. Mrs. Thompson noticed Sofia's unease. It's a lot, isn't it? She said, her voice gentle. When I was your age, I faced something similar. Got turned away from a diner because of my skin. I didn't have a phone to record it, no internet to share it. But you do, Sofia. Your voice matters. Use it. Sofia swallowed, her mind racing. I just wanted to go to our camp, she said, her voice small. I didn't ask for this. None of us asked for the fight, Mrs. Thompson said, patting her hand. But sometimes, the fight finds us. You're stronger than you know. Sofia nodded, her resolve flickering. She thought of her paintings, the way she used color to tell stories of her family, her culture, her dreams. Maybe this was a story she needed to tell, to not just for her, but for others who'd been judged, silenced, or pushed aside. She opened her sketchbook, her fingers tracing the caricature she'd drawn of Vanessa earlier. Art was her voice, her strength. Maybe it could carry her through this. The seatbelt sign finally dinged off, and the cabin stirred. Mark began serving drinks, his movements hesitant, as if afraid to face Sofia. Karen stayed in the galley, her absence a small victory. Robert leaned over, his voice low. When we land, I'll connect you with a colleague in New York. You've got a case here, discrimination, assault, the works. Horizon's going to pay for this. Sofia's eyes widened. A lawsuit? I don't know. I just want to move on. The idea of court, lawyers, and headlines made her stomach churn. She just wanted to paint, to be a kid again, not a symbol. You don't have to decide now, Robert said, his tone kind. But you've got options. Don't let them off the hook. Vanessa chimed in, her voice fierce. He's right. They need to learn. And with these videos, you've got the world on your side. You could change things, Sofia. Sofia nodded, her mind a whirlwind. She glanced out the window. The clouds stretching endlessly below. The plane was descending now. The captain announcing they'd land at LaGuardia in 45 minutes. Sofia's heart raced. She'd see her dad soon, feel his arms around her, hear his voice in person. But what came next? The viral storm was growing, and she was at its center. Mrs. Thompson handed Sofia a small notebook. Write down how you feel, she said. It helps. And when you're ready, share it. Your story's bigger than this flight. Sofia took the notebook, her fingers brushing the worn cover. Thank you, she said, her voice steadying. She opened it, her pencil scratching softly as she wrote. I'm scared. I'm angry. But I'm not invisible. Not anymore. The words felt like a release, a step toward reclaiming her power. The plane's descent grew steeper, the cabin lights dimming. Mark approached Sofia, a glass of orange juice in hand. On the house, he said, his voice soft. I really am sorry. Sofia nodded, accepting the drink. His apology wasn't enough, but it was a start. As the plane neared LaGuardia, Vanessa showed Sofia her phone again. The video had hit 100,000 views, and news outlets were picking up the story. "They're calling you a hero," Vanessa said, her eyes shining. "Reporters will probably be at the gate. You ready for that?" Sofia's stomach flipped. "Reporters," she whispered. She'd imagined hugging her dad, not facing cameras. The art camp felt like a distant dream now, overshadowed by hashtags and headlines. Mrs. Thompson squeezed her hand. "You don't have to talk if you're not ready. But if you do, speak from here." She tapped her chest. "That's where the truth lives." Sofia nodded, her heart pounding. The plane's wheels screeched against the runway, a jolt that snapped the cabin to attention. The captain's voice came on. "Welcome to New York's LaGuardia Airport. Local time is 3:15 p.m. Please remain seated until we reach the gate." The passengers clapped, but their eyes stayed on Sofia, a mix of admiration and curiosity. As the plane taxied, Mark approached, his voice low. "Your dad's waiting in a private lounge. Security's escorting you there to avoid the crowd." He paused, his eyes downcast. I hope you're okay." Sofia nodded, her throat tight. "Thanks," she said, her voice soft but firm. She gathered her backpack, her sketchbook tucked inside. The cabin was quiet now, the storm settling, but Sofia knew a bigger one awaited outside. The plane reached the gate, and the seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers stood, gathering their belongings, but many paused by Sofia's seat. "Stay strong," a man said, patting her shoulder. "You're amazing," a woman added, handing her a business card. "I'm a journalist. If you want to share your story, call me." Sofia thanked them, overwhelmed by their support. Karen emerged from the galley, her face unreadable. She avoided Sofia's gaze, busying herself with paperwork. Mark lingered, his eyes apologetic. Sofia felt a pang of pity for him. He'd been caught in Karen's orbit, too weak to break free. But pity didn't erase the bruise on her arm or the fear in her chest. Mrs. Thompson stood, her voice firm. "Let's get you to that lounge, Sofia. Your dad's waiting." She guided Sofia to the front, Robert and Vanessa following like a protective shield. The cabin door opened, and a security officer in a crisp uniform greeted them. "Miss Alvarez? I'm Officer Carter. I'll escort you to the lounge," he said, his tone professional but kind. Sofia nodded, her heart racing. She stepped onto the jet bridge, the cool air a shock after the stuffy cabin. Mrs. Thompson, Robert, and Vanessa stayed close, their presence a reminder that she wasn't alone. As they entered the terminal, a roar of voices hit them. Reporters and cameras swarmed behind a barricade, their flashes blinding. "Sofia, what happened on the flight? Are you suing Horizon? Is it true your dad owns the airline?" Security held them back, but their questions pierced the air. Sofia's knees wobbled, but Mrs. Thompson's hand on her shoulder kept her steady. "Keep walking, honey," Mrs. Thompson whispered. "You're almost there." Sofia's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for her dad, and then she saw him tall, broad-shouldered, his dark hair flecked with gray, his face etched with worry. Miguel Alvarez stood at the lounge entrance, his suit impeccable but his eyes raw with emotion. "Sofia," he called, pushing past security. "Dad," Sofia ran to him, her backpack bouncing. He caught her in a bear hug, his arms wrapping around her like a fortress. "I'm here, Mija," he murmured, his voice thick. "I'm so sorry." Sofia buried her face in his chest, the scent of his cologne grounding her. "They wouldn't listen, Dad," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They hurt me." Miguel pulled back, his eyes blazing as he saw the bruise on her arm. "They did this," he said, his voice low and dangerous. He turned to Officer Carter, his tone commanding. "I want names. Every crew member involved." "This isn't over," Officer Carter nodded. "Horizon's already investigating, sir. We'll get you a full report." Miguel hugged Sofia again, his voice softening. "You're safe now. I've got you." He glanced at Mrs. Thompson, Robert, and Vanessa, his eyes grateful. "Thank you for protecting my daughter." Mrs. Thompson smiled. "She protected herself, Mr. Alvarez. We just backed her up." Sofia's heart swelled, but the reporters' shouts grew louder, their cameras flashing through the lounge windows. Miguel's jaw tightened. "We're getting you out of here," he said. guiding her toward a side exit. "But Sofia, the world's watching. You don't have to speak. But if you want to, I'm with you." Sofia froze, her heart pounding. Speak to the world? She thought of Mrs. Thompson's words, of her sketchbook, of the stories she told through her art. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce. I think I need to say something," she said. "For me, for others." Miguel's eyes softened, pride shining through. "Then we'll do it together. But not here, not now." As they stepped toward the exit, Vanessa's phone buzzed, her face paling. "Sofia, you need to see this," she said, holding up a news alert. The headline blared, Horizon Airways defends crew in viral incident, claims passenger misconduct. Karen's name was front and center, her statement painting Sofia as a troublemaker. Sofia's blood ran cold, her voice a whisper. "They're lying. After everything, they're lying." Miguel's face hardened, his hand tightening on her shoulder. "They won't get away with this," he said, his voice a vow. "But Sofia, are you ready to fight back?" Sofia's heart raced, the weight of the world pressing down. Speak out, or stay silent. The choice was hers, and it would change everything. Wow, what a moment. Will Sofia take on the spotlight and fight Horizon's lies? Can she turn this storm into a force for change? Smash that like button, share this episode, and subscribe to Ascendancy for episode 6. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Sofia speak out or lay low? Let's keep this justice journey soaring. See you next episode. Sofia Alvarez clung to her dad's arm as they slipped through a side exit of LaGuardia Airport's private lounge, the roar of reporters fading behind the heavy glass doors. Her heart pounded, her denim jacket crumpled from the chaos of Flight 114. The bruise on her arm ached, a stark reminder of Karen's grip, but Miguel's presence was a fortress. His suit crisp despite the red-eye flight he'd taken to reach her. His dark eyes blazed with protective fury, softened only when they met Sofia's. "You're safe now, Mija," he murmured, guiding her toward a waiting black SUV. "No one's touching you again." Sofia's throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. "They lied, Dad," she whispered, her voice raw. "Horizon's saying I caused trouble." After everything, she trailed off. The news alert Vanessa had shown her burning in her mind. Horizon Airways defends crew in viral incident, claims passenger misconduct. Karen's name was all over it, her statement twisting the truth into a knife aimed at Sofia's heart. Miguel's jaw clenched, his hand tightening on her shoulder. "They're scrambling," he said, his voice low and fierce. "They know they're wrong, and they're scared. I'm handling this, Sofia. Horizon's my company, too, and I'll make sure they answer for it." He opened the SUV's door, helping her inside. The leather seats were cool, a stark contrast to the stifling cabin of the plane. Sofia sank back, her backpack on her lap, her sketchbook peeking out. She wanted to draw, to pour her fear and anger onto paper, but her hands shook too much. Mrs. Thompson, Robert, and Vanessa had stayed behind to give statements to security, promising to stay in touch. Their support lingered in Sofia's chest, a warmth that battled the cold dread of the media storm. As the SUV pulled away, Miguel sat beside her, his phone buzzing nonstop. He ignored it, focusing on Sofia. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice gentle but urgent. "From the moment you got to the airport." Sofia took a shaky breath, recounting the check-in agent's skepticism, Greg's cold stare at the gate, Karen's accusations, the search of her bag, the grab that left her bruised. Her voice broke when she described the passenger's support, Mrs. Thompson's defiance, Robert's legal threats, Vanessa's viral video. "They believed me, Dad," she said, tears spilling. "But Karen, she wouldn't stop. She wanted me gone." Miguel's face darkened, his hands balling into fists. "She's done," he said, his voice a vow. "I've already spoken to the board. Karen suspended pending investigation and marks on notice. Horizon's launching a full review training, policies, everything." He paused, his eyes softening. "But Sofia, this is bigger than the flight now. The world's watching. You saw the reporters. You saw X. What do you want to do?" Sofia's stomach churned. She'd told him she wanted to speak out, but the reality was overwhelming. Cameras, questions, strangers judging her every word. She wasn't ready for that. She was just a 17-year-old artist, dreaming of New York's art camp, not a crusader. I don't know, she admitted, her voice small. I'm scared, Dad. What if they twist my words, too? What if this follows me forever? Miguel took her hand, his calloused fingers grounding her. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, he said. But you're my daughter, and I know your heart. You've got a voice, Mija. You've always used your art to tell stories, your abuela's garden, our neighborhood, our culture. This is another story, and it's yours to tell. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. Sofia nodded, her eyes drifting to her backpack. Mrs. Thompson's notebook was tucked inside, its blank pages a challenge. Write down how you feel, she'd said. Your story's bigger than this flight. Sofia's fingers itched to write, to draw, to make sense of the chaos. But first, she needed to feel safe. The SUV pulled into a sleek Manhattan hotel, its glass facade reflecting the afternoon sun. Security escorted them to a private suite, shielding them from the reporters camped outside. Inside, the room was a haven of soft lighting and plush furniture, but Sofia's nerves still buzzed. Her mom, Elena, was on a video call from Dallas, her face etched with worry. Sophie, me Amber, are you okay? She asked, her voice trembling. I saw the videos. I'm flying out tomorrow. I'm okay, Mom, Sofia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Dad's here. I need you. She choked back a sob, and Elena's eyes filled with tears. You're so strong, Sophie, Elena said. We're so proud of you. Rest now. We'll figure this out together. After the call, Miguel ordered room service, Sofia's favorite, chicken tacos and horchata. They ate in silence, the weight of the day settling between them. Sofia picked at her food, her mind replaying the flight, the cameras, the lies. She opened Mrs. Thompson's notebook, scribbling a single line. I'm not a thief. I'm Sofia Alvarez, and I belong here. The words felt like a spark, igniting something inside her. Dad, she said, her voice tentative. What if I made a video? Not for the news, but for me. To tell my side. To show I'm not what they're saying. Her heart raced at the thought, but Mrs. Thompson's words echoed. Your voice matters. Miguel's eyes lit up, pride shining through. That's my girl, he said. A video's perfect. You control the story. We can post it on X, let the world hear you directly. But only if you're sure. Sofia hesitated, her fingers tracing the notebook. I'm not sure, she admitted. But I'm tired of being scared. Karen lied. Horizon's lying. I can't let them win. Her voice grew stronger, her fear giving way to resolve. She thought of her paintings, the bold colors she used to tell truths others overlooked. This was her truth, and she'd paint it with her words. Miguel pulled out his phone, setting it up on a small tripod. Whenever you're ready, he said, his voice gentle, no rush. Just you being you. Sofia took a deep breath, her hands steadying. She brushed her curls back, straightened her jacket, and sat in front of the camera. The red light blinked, and for a moment, she froze. Then she thought of her abuela, who'd faced prejudice crossing the border, her dad, who'd built a business against the odds, her own dreams, bright and unyielding. She pressed record. Hi, I'm Sofia Alvarez, she began, her voice trembling but clear. I'm 17, from Dallas, and I was on Horizon Airways flight to one for today. I was accused of stealing something I didn't take. I was grabbed, humiliated, and almost kicked out of first class, not because of evidence, but because of how I looked. I'm Latina, and I was judged for it. Her voice grew steadier, her eyes fierce. But I'm not a thief. I'm an artist, a daughter, a dreamer. My dad's a partner at Horizon, and he got me that ticket because he believes in me. I'm sharing this because no one should feel like they don't belong. Thank you to the passengers who stood up for me. Your voices gave me mine. She paused, her heart pounding. I'm not done fighting, she added, her voice a vow. This isn't just about me, it's about everyone who's been judged, silenced, or hurt. We deserve better. She stopped recording, her breath ragged. The room was silent, Miguel's eyes glistening with tears. You were incredible, Mija, he said, pulling her into a hug. That's your light, shining bright. Sofia's cheeks flushed, a mix of pride and nerves. "Do you think it's okay?" she asked, her voice small. "It's more than okay," Miguel said. "It's powerful. Want me to post it?" Sofia nodded, her resolve hardening. "Yeah, let's do it." Miguel uploaded the video to X, tagging #Justice for Sofia and Horizon Airways. Within minutes, the views climbed 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Comments poured in. "You're a hero, Sofia. Horizon, do better. This made me cry." Sofia watched, overwhelmed, as her story spread like wildfire. But not everyone was supportive. Some comments were cruel. "She's just playing the victim. Privileged kid causing drama." Sofia's stomach twisted, but Miguel squeezed her hand. "Focus on the love, Mija," he said. "The haters don't know you. The world does now." By evening, the video had hit 1 million views, and news outlets were clamoring for interviews. Miguel fielded calls, shielding Sofia from the frenzy. "Rest tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, we'll plan next steps." Sofia nodded, exhaustion crashing over her. She curled up on the hotel couch, her sketchbook open, drawing a phoenix rising from flames, her symbol of rebirth. The next morning, Sofia woke to a flood of notifications. Her video was everywhere: CNN, BBC, even international outlets. #Justice for Sofia was a global trend, with protests planned outside Horizon's offices. But a new headline caught her eye. Horizon Airways issues apology, promises reform. The statement was vague, mentioning regret for the incident, but avoiding Karen's name. It felt hollow, a corporate dodge. Miguel's phone rang, and he stepped into the next room to take it. Sofia overheard snippets: board meeting, full investigation, Karen's out. Her heart leaped. Karen was gone. But when Miguel returned, his face was grim. "Good news and bad," he said. "Karen's been fired and Mark's suspended. Horizon's rolling out mandatory diversity training, but they're pushing back on a public apology to you. Some board members think it's too risky with the lawsuits coming." Sofia's jaw dropped. "Lawsuits," she said, her voice rising. "I didn't ask for that. Robert's firm is moving forward," Miguel said. "And others are joining passengers' advocacy groups. This is bigger than us now, Mija. But it's your call how we proceed." Sofia's mind raced. A lawsuit could hold Horizon accountable, but it would keep her in the spotlight, maybe derail her art camp. She wanted justice, not a circus. She opened Mrs. Thompson's notebook, reading her words. "I'm not invisible. I want to keep speaking," she said, her voice firm. "But not in court. I want to go to my art camp, make my art, show the world who I am. Can we do that?" Miguel's eyes softened, pride shining through. "We can do anything you want," he said. "I'll handle the legal stuff. You focus on your dreams." Sofia nodded, relief washing over her. She imagined her art camp painting, laughing, being a kid again. But as she packed her sketchbook, her phone buzzed with a new ex-post from Vanessa. Breaking: Horizon insider leaks Karen's past misconduct. More victims coming forward. The post linked to a story about Karen's history of targeting minority passengers, with anonymous crew members backing it up. Sofia's heart sank. This wasn't just about her, it was systemic, a pattern Horizon had ignored. Her video had cracked the dam, and now others were stepping forward. She felt a surge of responsibility, but also fear. What if speaking out put a target on her back? What if Horizon retaliated? Miguel noticed her expression. "What's wrong, Mija?" he asked, glancing at her phone. He read the post, his face hardening. "This changes things," he said. "If there are others, we can't stay quiet. But Sofia, it's your choice. Do you want to lead this fight, or let others carry it?" Sofia's heart raced, her fingers tracing the phoenix in her sketchbook. She'd spoken out once, and it had changed everything. Could she do it again? The art camp was so close, her dreams within reach, but the voices of others silenced, like she'd almost been called to her. As she opened her mouth to answer, a knock at the door startled them. Miguel opened it, revealing Officer Carter, the security officer from the airport. His face was grave. "Mr. Alvarez, Sofia," he said. "We've got a situation. Reporters have breached the hotel lobby, and there's a crowd outside, supporters and protesters. We need to move you now. Sofia's blood ran cold, her voice a whisper. Protesters? For me, Carter nodded. Your videos stirred things up. Some folks aren't happy. We've got a safe route, but we need to go. Miguel grabbed their bags, his voice calm but urgent. Stay close, Mija. Sofia clutched her sketchbook, her heart pounding. The fight she'd started was bigger than she'd imagined, and it was coming for her. Oh man, what a turning point. Will Sofia lead the charge or protect her dreams? Can she face the crowd outside? Smash that like button, share this episode, and subscribe to Ascendancy for episode 7. Drop your thoughts in the comments should Sofia keep fighting or focus on her art. Let's keep this justice journey soaring. See you next episode. Sofia Alvarez stood frozen in the hotel suite, her heart racing as Officer Carter's words sank in. Reporters have breached the lobby, and there's a crowd outside, supporters and protesters. We need to move you now. Her sketchbook was clutched to her chest, its phoenix drawing a symbol of her resilience. The bruise on her arm throbbed, a fading mark of the nightmare on flight to 114. But her spirit burned brighter. Her dad, Miguel Alvarez, grabbed their bags, his face a mask of calm determination. Stay close. Mija, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos looming outside. Sofia's mind spun. Her video on X, raw and honest, had hit millions of views, igniting #JusticeForSofia and exposing Horizon. Airways failures. Karen was fired, Mark suspended, and leaks revealed a pattern of misconduct. But Horizon's half-hearted apology and the protesters' anger showed the fight wasn't over. Sofia wanted to go to her art camp, to paint and dream, but the world was watching, and the voices of others, silenced like she'd been called her to act. Could she lead without losing herself? Officer Carter led them to a service elevator, the hum of the descent mirroring Sofia's racing pulse. We've got a car waiting in the basement, he said, his radio crackling with updates. Most of the crowd's supportive, but some are stirred up by Horizon's statement. Stay behind me. Sofia nodded, her denim jacket snug around her shoulders, her curls pulled into a tight ponytail. She glanced at Miguel, his dark eyes fierce with love and resolve. Whatever happens, I'm with you, he said, squeezing her hand. The elevator doors opened to a dimly lit garage where a black SUV idled. But as they stepped out, a shout echoed from the ramp. There she is. A handful of reporters had slipped past security, their cameras flashing like lightning. Sofia, are you suing Horizon? What's next for #JusticeForSofia? Sofia froze, her breath catching, but Miguel stepped in front, shielding her. No comment, he said, his voice firm. Let us through. Carter and another officer pushed the reporters back, clearing a path to the SUV. Sofia scrambled inside, her heart pounding as Miguel slid in beside her. The doors slammed shut, and the driver peeled out, tires squealing, through the tinted windows. Sofia glimpsed the crowd outside the hotel, hundreds of people, some holding signs, "We stand with Sofia. Horizon must change." Others waved angry placards, "Stop the drama. Respect our airlines." The divide was stark, and Sofia's stomach churned. Her story had sparked a movement, but it had also fueled hate. As the SUV sped toward a safe house arranged by Miguel's team, Sofia opened her sketchbook, her pencil scratching a quick sketch of the crowd, hope and anger clashing like colors on a canvas. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling, "I didn't mean for this. I just wanted to tell my story." Miguel's eyes softened. "I know, Mija, but your story is bigger than you now. It's giving others courage. I got a call from the board. More passengers are coming forward, sharing stories like yours. You cracked the dam." He paused, his voice gentle. "You don't have to carry this alone. We can let the lawyers and advocates take it from here." Sofia nodded, but Mrs. Thompson's words echoed, "Your voice matters." She thought of her art, the way she painted her family's resilience, her abuela's border crossing, her dad's rise from a garage to a boardroom. This was her story, too, and she couldn't walk away. "I want to keep speaking," she said, her voice firm. "But I want to do it my way, through my art, my words, not a lawsuit or a circus." Miguel's face lit up, pride shining through. "That's my girl," he said. "We'll make it happen. You focus on your art camp. I'll handle the rest." The safe house was a cozy brownstone in Brooklyn, far from the media's reach. Sofia's mom, Elena, arrived that evening, her embrace a balm to Sofia's frayed nerves. "Mi amor, you're so brave," Elena said, stroking Sofia's curls. "But you're still my baby. Let us take care of you now." They ate a quiet dinner. Tamales Elena had brought from Dallas, and Sofia felt a flicker of normalcy. She sketched in Mrs. Thompson's notebook, writing, "I'm scared, but I'm not alone. My family's my wings." The next morning, Miguel shared news, Horizons board, under pressure from the viral backlash and looming lawsuits, had fired Karen officially and suspended 2 other crew members. Linked to past incidents, they'd also committed to a $10 million diversity and inclusion program, including scholarships for underrepresented youth. They're calling it the Alvarez Initiative. Miguel said, his voice tinged with pride. "Because of you, Mija." Sofia's eyes widened. "Me," she whispered. The weight of it was humbling, but also empowering. Her voice had changed something real. She opened X, where #JusticeForSofia posts now included stories from others: Black, Latino, Asian passengers sharing their own airline horror stories. Sofia's heart swelled. She'd given them a platform, just as Mrs. Thompson had urged. That afternoon, Sofia started her art camp, a vibrant program in Soho filled with young artists. The studio smelled of paint and possibility, and Sofia felt like herself again, her brush dancing across a canvas. Her first piece was a phoenix, its wings ablaze with reds and golds, rising from a storm of gray. Her instructor, a weary woman named Ms. Rivera, gasped. "Sofia, this is powerful," she said. "It's you, isn't it?" Sofia nodded, her voice soft. "It's everyone who's been pushed down but keeps rising." The other students gathered, their eyes wide, some recognizing her from the news. "Your #JusticeForSofia," a boy said, awe in his voice. "You're a legend." Sofia blushed, but their support fueled her. She wasn't alone. Midway through the camp, Mrs. Thompson visited, her gray bun as neat as ever. She brought a letter, her handwriting elegant. "Sofia, you've given voice to the voiceless. I'm proud to call you my friend. Keep shining." Sofia hugged her, tears in her eyes. "You gave me courage," she said. "This is for you, too." Inspired, Sofia organized an art project with her campmates, a mural for the community center, depicting faces of all colors, their eyes lifted to the sky. She titled it "Wings of Change," pouring her story into every stroke. The mural's unveiling drew a crowd, including reporters, but this time, Sofia was ready. She stood beside Miguel and Elena, her voice clear. "This mural's for everyone who's felt invisible," she said, her eyes sweeping the crowd. "We're not just passengers, we're people. And we belong everywhere." The crowd erupted in applause, cameras flashing. Miguel announced the Alvarez Initiative's first scholarship recipients, with Sofia as its ambassador. She'd mentor young artists, helping them find their voices through art. It was her way of leading quietly, authentically, on her terms. Back in Dallas, Sofia returned to her bedroom, her walls still a gallery of her paintings. She added a new piece, the phoenix from camp, now framed. Horizons settled the lawsuits out of court, with Roberts' firm ensuring fair compensation for Sofia and others. The airline's reforms continued, with Miguel overseeing training to prevent future incidents. Karen faded into obscurity, her lies exposed, while Mark retrained, vowing to do better. Sofia's phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. "You changed the game, girl. Sky's the limit." Sofia smiled, replying, "Thanks for filming. We did this together." She opened her sketchbook, starting a new drawing, a girl with wings, soaring over a city. It was her, but also everyone she'd inspired. Months later, Sofia boarded another Horizon flight, this time with Miguel and Elena, heading to an art exhibit in Chicago featuring her work. The crew greeted her warmly, their name tags gleaming. As the plane took off, Sofia looked out the window, the clouds glowing gold. "This time's different," she said, her voice steady. Miguel squeezed her hand. "Because of you, Mija. You gave us all wings." Sofia smiled, her heart full. The fight had been brutal, but it had forged her into something stronger, a storyteller, a leader, a light. As the plane climbed, She felt the world open beneath her, endless and hers to shape. What a journey! Sofia's story proves one voice can spark a revolution. What's next for her? That's up to us to keep fighting, creating, and lifting each other up. Smash that like button, share this finale, and subscribe to Ascendancy for more stories of justice and hope. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's Sofia's next chapter? Let's keep her wings soaring. Thank you for flying with us.